to order. It's 8 o'clock.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning to all.
Morning.
We'll move on to review and approval of the agenda as posted.
So moved.
Second.
Gary approves. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Opposed? Agenda approved. Moving on to the consent items. The March 18th board minutes and the warrants as presented in the packet.
I so move.
Paul on
Second.
both and Warren on both. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent items approved. We'll move on to the county board form. Paul, go ahead.
First, the only one we had was the
West Central Regional
watershed meeting. A lot of information. Was good. It's nice to see that it didn't drag on forever.
No, it could have gone on longer.
Yeah, they could have, but it was nice. It was just general good information, nothing earth-shattering. They went over a lot of the general information that we're all waiting for. It's nice to see that. We're still waiting on Marshall Polk for an answer on where the direction is. And then there was a presenter there from East.
Yeah, that was
Neil
Breidenbach.
Yeah. And then that was more in depth than I had anticipated, but at least it did give a good understanding of how their system works. Other than that, no, I thought it was pretty good, pretty straightforward. I hate going to those things if they're going to waste a whole lot of time on just gabbing.
Mm-hmm.
This one was not. It was just boom, got it done and moved on. So that's what I got there. It was good. Yesterday's was good.
Okay, thank you. Warren?
That's the only meeting I had too. Thought where we had our new member was to be there, and he ended up with some problems.
Yeah, he at work. That was. I stopped on my way to pick up something to eat on the way, and he was up all night. His computer crashed at it where he works. He runs the gas station, and his computer crashed. So all of his tills and everything weren't working. And then it was kind of interesting because who's the guy from Climax?
Oh, Brian Evenson.
He has worked with him on some other boards, and he's looking so forward to seeing him. He was, he asked me, he says, "Oh, Danny couldn't make it. What was going on?" And then that's when I told him, because he's so at least, and I stopped afterwards and I told Danny, I says, "Hey, you know this?" Yeah. And I says, "Well, he's looking forward to this." So, because he was on, he says, "I don't know anybody else on that board besides you." And I says, "Now you do." Because he had worked with him for several years on fire chief's board for the county and in another board. So he's looking forward to it. So
You had drug task force.
Danny was?
How come I don't have any notes on it?
I don't know.
I know that they tasked the forfeiture fund, didn't have any report on that, so I can't even give you that number, but there was nothing else of any significance.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I was thinking that there was something, but now I don't remember it.
Okay, Gary?
Yes. Wednesday, part of the Crookston Downtown Development Group, and got invited out to the visit of President Cunningham, University of Minnesota campus, and a lot of updates and a lot of support for the Crookston campus, which is always good to hear from leadership. Interesting. I mean, there are a lot of things, but one of the things that struck out was and they've spent a lot of time on scholarships for people from Minnesota making less than $80,000, 80,000. And that's helped a lot. But one statistic that she shared is that 50% of the graduates from the campus graduate with no financial balance.
Wow.
That is a phenomenal
That's fucking
number,
wild.
and a number, yeah, at a top university like
Yeah.
that. And she attributed that to the scholarships that they were doing. Obviously they're concerned about cuts and things like that. What's going to happen, and kind of a still of an up positive. We'll get it with. And then in the afternoon, the CHS CEO was there, and his name is Jay. I don't know how I pronounce his last name, DeBurton or something like that. But concerned about the a lot of things on prices and an oversupply, and the fact that Ukraine wasn't able to produce a lot of wheat, and that's going to change in the future, but it's very fluent. Then Thursday, I went to the Laurel meeting down in Moorhead, and their community center library is getting there. The Laurel offices were planning to go into that, and I had been pushing for the last year and a half to find out what the cost of that rent was going to be. Well, we found that out last Thursday, and it was a lot higher than we had anticipated, certainly different than our budget. And so we're going to go back and negotiate that and see where that can go. Several commissioners attend those, and something that they announced is the fact that their applicants for positions are way up. Becker County said they had 19 people that qualified. I'm not sure if it was an engineer position or it might have been, but for whatever position it was in Becker County, they had 19 applicants that qualified for the minimums. So according to their HR, they're going to interview 19 candidates. Wow. Others were saying, yeah, I had 9. And I'm thinking, where'd all these people come from in 6 months or a year? So it'll be interesting to see at Polk County. I don't think we've had any boost in numbers. Yeah. So good news if it's for everybody. So I attended the planning commission meeting on Friday, and Jake will be here with a couple. You saw those on the agenda. And then one that was a lot of discussion was regarding a campground, and that was tabled. So it's going to go back to the drawing board too to see if anything else can be changed on that. And then yesterday I met with Police Chief Bernard Selzer, Crookston Chief, just to kind of to see how recruitment was doing in his department, how they were handling it. And they are at full force. They are giving, you can't say, I guess incentives is the correct word you use on these things. So I was just kind of questioning on how the morale was, amongst the other current officers and how that was all working. But he was pretty strong that fortunately or unfortunately that's those incentives are necessary to build your department. So I'll share some of that. I think we've got a meeting this afternoon to deal with that. That's all I've got.
Gary, get one
Yes, sir.
question on when you had the Crookston meet. I had some questions out there about the new building. Is there new business coming into is there a,
That Winter Show's
no,
business is that?
something south of town? Was
Out by
there,
the transfer station?
Yes.
what company is that? What are they bringing in?
It was convenience store and electrical charging. Very dependent upon federal funding.
Sure.
And it's something that Planning Commission had actually dealt with a couple of years ago.
Somebody heard something about a dog food company coming in. There anything about that? Anybody heard anything about that?
You know,
No, we have a rodeo coming in. I did hear about that. So
I read a bleep on that yeah, that was like last fall. There
Okay.
was an announcement about that, but
Nothing new about that. Yeah. Okay. They were just asking.
Jake might have an update on that too. The Planning Commission did deal with that, did kind of discuss that.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
Joan,
So after our last board meeting, we had a finance committee meeting. And things are moving along. One thing I'm excited that we're doing now is we're gonna have a check scanner so that we can just scan the checks when they come in versus having to actually physically take them to the bank. And I think that's gonna be definitely a lot more efficient and, so that's a good positive. I had Clearwater, one watershed, one plan. I was reelected chair again. And we went over, some of the projects that have been completed and where we are financially with the grants, and everything is going well. We're using up the grants within the time limits, and projects are getting done. One project they talked about, this is along the riverbanks where it sloughs, that they'll take like whole trees, including the root system, and they bore it into the trunk into the side of the river, and then they have like the root system sticking out, and then they do like a mat, that's seeded to put over that, and it, helps to prevent the erosion and sloughing of the banks. I thought that was really kind of interesting and, innovative. So had East Polk on the water. One thing they talked about is that MPCA has reached out to them, and they want to do 3 like monitoring sites that would be upstream of Lake Sarah, so it'd be kind of like around the Bradley Lake area. They just want to, see if there's anything that's flowing into the lake where it's, coming from toxins and those type of things. So I think that, the board did approve the staff of doing that. And then Warren and I, we had drug task force, did some purchases for some binoculars and other equipment. Talked about a couple grants that they were eligible for, and a lot of those they go towards supplementing the wages of the officers that work in those areas. And then I had another meeting for the MAFPA CWDA, that's the African American Act at the state level. There was no fiscal note attached to that last year when they approved it. So just kind of, trying to figure out just a rough estimate of what, it was going to cost the counties. And, um, I mean, it's, over, well, close to like, 200 million initially that this is going to cost. And that's not even including what the cost could be incurred at the county attorney level. So it's, I mean, everybody agrees it's a good, the premise of the bill is good, but, the financial end of it is going to really, the counties are really going to take a hit on it. And we're still waiting for DHS to provide the actual official definition of disproportionality. Because until they've come up with that official definition, we can't really define who actually qualifies for the care, the active efforts in regards to this bill. And there's a lot of counties are saying that they're going to have to increase staff, but then it's like we're short already. Where are we going to find these staff members? And a question of whether it's going to follow the ICWA definitions or if it's going to be something on its own. And unfortunately we're waiting for the state to come up with those guidelines. And then I had Wild Rice Marsh, one watershed, one plan. Like the Clearwater, we went over projects that have been completed, those that are coming forward. Spent quite a bit of time on, they had received some extra funding for CRP land. So it's used as an incentive for like people that are re-enrolling. And then, it's $100 per acre then that the one watershed plan pays, just a one-time amount to them. And initially the grant we got last year was 30,000, while we have what we're slated to get this year is 100,000, but not sure, if we're going to actually get that funding or not. And we don't really know what the appetite is for that. So we instructed the soil and water districts to kind of put feelers out there to figure out, how many farmers are interested in receiving this funding, how many acres they have, how far that grant can stretch if we, receive it. And then I had intercounty and, spent time on, what things look, because I mean, they receive a lot of federal funding and, what that might look like going forward. And so intercounty is actually going to be celebrating 60 years this year. So we talked about kind of some ways of celebrating that. And we had received a grant for $1,600. And what we're going to do is the first part of June, we've located different areas within the counties that intercounty serves and going to do food drop-offs, so people can come and get, a container of food. Because we thought that would be because I mean, that's what we do is our purpose is to help, families that are struggling. And by doing, celebrating our 60th year by doing that food drop-off is, a good way to, let people know what we're doing. And then I went to Nisswa for the Leadership Summit. Really, really good. It's the speaker, he's originally from Albany, Minnesota. And, he kept us, engaged. I mean, the full time. And, and there was a lot of good, fun things that were happening. And I think that the room was so comfortable with him and with everybody in the room that, I mean, there were some jabs at, certain people during the meeting. I mean, it was pretty funny. Um, but, just talking about always being present and, um, it's like sometimes, you need to take a smaller part of the big picture and just concentrate, just taking it one step at a time. And, just, um, and then also like challenging yourself sometimes that, because we all kind of get in a rut and, like where just if we took 4% of every day, which is an hour, and had like some type of a routine, whatever that would um, do or would look like if you do it right away in the morning, like if you have your cup of coffee and like if you do meditation or devotion or you read the paper or just something that always you start your day with, or sometimes it might be the way that you end your day with too. But how just using that 4% of strictly for yourself, nothing else. And how it just kind of, it sets your mind so that you're prepared for whatever, that you're going to face. And one thing that really stuck out to me was that there was a video from, I think it was an admiral or something. He was doing a speech at a college graduation, and talked about how sometimes one person, their decision, how it affects so many other people. And one thing he talked about was like when he um, served overseas in battle, and sometimes the leaders would, you know they had their instructions, but they had a gut feeling that that wasn't the right way to go, so they would take their unit a different way. And how they would save the lives of these units. But he commented about how for some of those soldiers that lose their lives, that it's not just them, but it's the generations going forward that are all lost. And, that just put a different perspective on that. Um, and then we had, after the summit, then we had our board of directors meeting, and we had an update from Matt Hilgart on, because both now the House and the Senate have come out with their budget proposals. And some of the things like, I don't know if with the proposed cut that Walls has put out for PILT, if that would affect us, much. But like, just an example, Kuchiching County is almost 20%, and so, I mean, you put that added cost onto the county, and then you put like all these health and human services cuts down. I mean, there's no way that counties are going to be able to absorb all of this.
Be a large levy, wouldn't it?
Well, and my thought is that, I mean, the state is claiming that they can't afford to, fund these mandates the same way at the federal level, that, but they can't afford it at the federal or state level, but then they're pushing it down to the local level. So how are we supposed to be able to fund these things? So, there's just a lot of things, a lot of questions going forward yet. But then Saturday I was headed to Alexandria for a bridal shower, and I was going through Waban, and we'd seen there were fire trucks on the highway ahead of us, and White Earth has a transfer station there along the highway on 59, and they had a fire. So I text John Steiner and I, told him, I said, I think, that they've got a fire at their transfer station. So then he reached out to Gene, the White Earth um, person, and and then John called me in the afternoon. He said that they did have a fire. Initially, they thought it was electrical from the roof, but then they were kind of thinking that more or less it might have been a lithium battery, because Hubbard County actually had another one just a few days ago. They've had 5 or 6 fires from lithium batteries. So that's why it's so important for people not to throw those into their regular garbage.
Yeah.
But in Waban, they lost all of their equipment. Their building is just kind of the shell right now. But John has reached out, and told Gene that, Polk County will help them however, that we can. So, that's what we're here for, is, to help each other. So,
Was there any conversations regarding reducing the LGA funds for cities or county aid?
no, there has not been any discussion on that. Another thing that they've proposed cutting is the cannabis funding for both cities and counties. And they had already taken away from public health. Um, so, um, and then, like, even like AIS, our aquatic invasive species, of cutting that funding, 50%. And the one, and like Health and Human Services, that is the state's largest department. It's, and I understand that there needs to be cuts, but like the House plan really concerns me, because for the next budget, it's the first year is minimal, but then the second year of the budget is $1 billion cut. And that's a lot. So I don't know how, if we're supposed to continue to complete all these mandates, how can we do it? So,
Okay. On your leadership conference, I read this over the weekend. 42% of the population, or the survey group, doesn't listen to any news. 42%. And that's young and old.
mm-hmm,
And of the remaining balance, over 3/4 of those people rely on social media
mm-hmm,
for their news. So that leaves about 20%, if that,
Or less, yes.
or
Mhm.
less,
About 10%.
living or watching either local news or the cable type
mm-hmm,
Mainstream.
and
mm-hmm,
the mainstream news. So it's getting to be a real problem out there,
mm-hmm.
getting information out, any information, let alone the filters of good or bad
Mhm,
information.
mhm.
So it's
Yeah, and that was, one thing that we did discuss at our board of directors meeting of, all these cost shifts. We have no control over them. Whatever the federal and state decide to do, that's what they do, and we have to deal with it. And, we need to be loud and clear that, unfortunately, we're the person of bad news, that, but at the same, we're tied by what we have to do, and we're not the ones that are creating these cost shifts.
That's right.
so
It's
One thing, I found my notes. The forfeiture fund, that was usually around 85,000, it was reported at 8,000. We have a new financial person there, so you're thinking that 8,000 might have just been the receipts for that month. They were gonna do some checking.
Big difference.
But that fund is used to purchase all of the equipment that they need.
Hmm.
There's no tax bill on that.
Mhm.
It's been used that way for a long time.
Mhm.
I keep telling them that we keep spending that because somebody at the state level is gonna find another use for that money. And it'll be gone if you don't use it up for your purposes. So I'm voting yes on almost every purchase they come up with.
Uh, Point of clarification on Thursday night is the township officers annual meeting. Everybody gonna attend, or
I will not be there on that one.
Mm-mm.
I'll be there.
No,
I'll
everybody
be
else?
there.
Okay.
I wanted to, but I can't this
yeah,
one.
Well, you're gonna miss me fumbling through my
Oh,
speech.
I'm gonna miss that. Too bad.
yeah. I sent a note to Brenda letting her know because I already had a meeting scheduled for that night that I need to go to.
So
So.
it's just the three of
I
us.
was so looking forward to heckling, not heckling, being
So-
in the background.
So, and that's at the Eagles, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
At 6:30?
5:30 is for the town, and then 6 o'clock
That's the-
meeting starts.
Okay.
It'll be all.
All right. Moving on.
I'm still
Warren, one more.
still pecking away here. At Marshall Polk, that organization now is trying to rehire their previous attorney.
Oh yeah,
There was a while
that's right.
they let him go, and they were trying to hire a new one. And now that one's not working out, so they're going back to the original. But they're going to try to rewrite that memorandum of understanding or agreement that has been proposed to them. Basically, they proposed it to start with, and then the West Central group kind of fine tuned it, and now they're going back to fine tune it again. So I don't know where all that's going, but kind of get the feeling that there's at least one force behind all of this at the Marshall Polk level.
And more expenses.
More expensive, yeah.
So,
But that's enough. I'll throw my notes away now.
Mr. Sanders.
Good morning.
Morning.
These go to Mr. Holy. If you approve them. One for you and Warren. One for the three of you. One for you and Warren. One for the three of you. Let's see. Glasses. First item on the agenda is our annual street sweeping quote. We send out quotes to different people that will sweep our urban streets in our small cities and Crookston's Fisher Avenue. And we received two quotes, one from Matheson, one from ProSweep. Most responsible quote is Matheson out of Grand Forks at a price of $165 an hour. So I need approval to award to Matheson's.
I noticed it's only 3 sweeps instead of 4.
No, there's 3 sweepers available.
Oh, three.
Three different trucks, sweep
sweepers.
trucks.
Okay.
They have 3, they have 4.
Okay.
We only really use 2, so it doesn't much matter.
How many times
We
do
just sweep it. We just sweep in the spring.
Just
Get all the sand and stuff off our roadways so that water runs down the gutters. That's that.
gotcha. Okay.
So
You
need
provide the labor. This is just the rental of the equipment.
correct. They sweep the streets and put it in the back of one of our tandem trucks, all the garbage, and then we haul it to a place and dispose of it.
Oh, so the truck and the manpower.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, it's their person running the sweeper.
Okay, that's
And-
what I was.
and-
That's
yeah.
what you were asking.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
their truck and manpower.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
So move. Matheson.
Matheson.
I'll second.
Paul and Warren, all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We awarded to Matson.
Thank you.
What other towns get it?
All the
Use it?
small towns, so Fertile, Boston, Neillsville, Climax. Well, even Gently gets it because we have curb and gutter through Gently,
Sure.
Tabor.
Okay.
So anything that we have curb and gutter through,
Yep.
we sweep.
Okay.
So Mentor.
That's strictly on the county roads.
On
huh?
the county.
On the county roads.
Yep.
If the small city wants their street swept at the same time, then they would just pay us
That
what we're
price.
paying now.
That price. Okay.
That price.
Yeah. Okay. So, yep.
Landscape abstract, the one that's this way. So the first one we have is we let bids on Friday. We let bids on Friday, March 21st. And lowest responsible, this is for the surfacing at CASA 46 between Trunk Highway 102 and Trunk Highway 2. Lowest responsible bidder is RJ Zavril and Sons Incorporated at a total bid of $2,020,319. And you can see we had 3 other bidders. So I need a motion to award to RJ Zavril and Sons Incorporated and allow the chair to sign the contracts, chair and administrator.
So move.
Gary moves on all 3.
It's one motion.
One motion.
I'll second.
Sabro.
Warren seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
What road was that again?
It's on 46.
Where is that?
So it's east of Crookston, it's the 46 going north is the truck bypass. So this is going to tie the
Oh, okay,
truck bypass between 102 and 2 together.
okay.
So now trucks won't have to come into Crookston from Fertile. They could take that route if they want to get.
Just a 2-mile route there.
No, it's
like
the stuff south between 2 and 102. So it's about 6 miles.
Oh,
6 miles.
okay.
Crosses the railroad track there.
Yeah, we regraded it a couple of years ago.
All right.
Okay.
So we had a motion by Gary and Warren. We got through the discussion and objections. Any?
None.
Hearing none. Motion approved.
Okay. Vertical profile abstract. So this is our hot in place recycle contract set up for Dustrol Incorporated to do the work. So they're the only bidder, and it includes basically 3/4 of a mile of Pennington's CASA 1 and 3/4 of a mile of Red Lake's CASA 30, which is the extension of our CASA 19 north of Euclid to the East County line. So you got 19 from Trunk Highway 75 to the East County line. You have CASA 9 from the Thompson Bridge to Trunk Highway 75 in Crookston. And then you have CASA 45 from Trunk Highway 32 to our CASA 12 in Mentor. That's the 3 roads that will get hot in place recycle. Their bid came in at $4,793,919.75. So I need approval to award to Dustrol and allow the chair and administrator to sign the contract.
Motion to approve.
I will. I'm assuming this is a budgeted.
Yes, it's all CASA funding, so
Oh.
we have it there.
Warren moves.
Second.
Paul seconds. All in favor, say
Aye.
aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. awarded to
Dustral Incorporated.
Dustral Incorporated.
Thank you. Last time we were here, I asked you to do a resolution for 1.2 million. The state turned around and said, nope, you can't get all 1.2 million. You can only get 630,307 and 57 cents worth of it. So I need you to revise resolution 2025-18 to $630,307.57, please.
What is their rationale?
Well, they make us keep 2 years worth of funding in the account. So that's the rationale. If I would have taken 1.2 million, I would have had less than 2 years worth of funding in the account.
Does it place a burden on your budget?
No, this is all extra money. I wasn't even planning on doing this until 3 weeks ago. So has nothing to do with my budget other than we transfer the funds. It allows us to spend future, that's 630 on future construction on the county state aid highway system. So,
Okay, just basically a clerical.
yep, just basically Rich should have asked some questions prior to doing the resolution instead of doing the resolution originally at 1.2 million.
Move approval.
Gary moves. Second.
Second.
Joan seconds. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? Clerical approved.
Thank you. Our favorite subject, blow dirt.
It's a little bit of that this year.
We have it all over the place. It doesn't affect just one district. It might affect them all. So we have 2 issues. We have highway ditches that are full of blow dirt, and we have legal county drainage ditches that are full of blow dirt. On the roadway side of it, typically when a landowner wants to work within our right of way to either clean a ditch so the water flows better or replace a culvert or whatever, we have a permitting system that they apply for a permit to remove the dirt. They pay $300 for that permit, and then when we go out there and review the work they do, they get 200 of that back. And so that's the process with the roadways. With the county drainage systems, you guys get the petitions, you approve the petitions, I hire a contractor, they go out and they clean the ditch. Well, that both those will be overburdensome for, while the permitting system will be overburdensome for all the landowners out there to clean highway ditches just to remove blow dirt to put it back in their fields. And I would be approving permits on a daily basis, probably all day long, just to get it all done. On the drainage system, you guys would have to be approving petitions by the stack on a Tuesday in the future if all the ditches were petitioned to clean the blow dirt out of the ditches. So what I'm recommending is that for the highway system, instead of having them have to fill out the permit, pay the $300 to clean out blow dirt out of the highway ditch, we just do a blanket countywide right-of-way permit for landowners to go out there and reclaim their black dirt. That's it. If they reclaim their black dirt, they can do it on their own. Just go out there, grab it, put it back in their fields. Everything's at their cost on the highway side anyway, so that's not going to change anything. All it's going to change is they don't have to fill out a $300 permit, and I don't have to approve them. They can do their process. If we want, we can have them call the office and let us know where they're cleaning, but we'll pretty much know that my maintenance workers are out there driving the system on a weekly basis, so we'll know where they're being cleaned, what they're cleaning, so we can keep track of it that way. So that would be the highway side. On the drainage side, as requests come in, I can send them out the petition to be cleaned. keep track of all those areas. But um, if you allow me to just do the approvals so that they can clean them, get them done with their contractor or with their own manpower, it'll save time at the county board or your time. And it just allows the process to get done quicker because I'll be able to keep track of everything in the office and just give approvals to go ahead and do the work. So that's the two different entities we're talking about with the county ditch system. If they hire a contractor, we already know they have insurance. There's a lot of the contractors that I've already did a equipment rental bid with us, so we have their rate just so that we know who's there. We have their certificate of insurance on file, so it makes it easy. They hire a contractor to remove the black dirt. Yep, go ahead. Stortron can go out there and remove black dirt out of that ditch, not a problem. If it's going to be a landowner doing the work, we'll have some requirements for that landowner to work within the county drainage system, supply us with a certificate of insurance so we know you have insurance. Make sure you're doing work only in front of your property. If you're going to do it adjacent to other people's property, they should be signing on the petition as well, which is typical for a county drainage petition anyway. And the cost is at their cost, not at the drainage system's cost. So that's what I currently have. And so the two motions that would be in front of you would be, the first one would be the blanket approval for highway ditches to allow landowners to reclaim their black dirt that are in a county roadway ditch. This won't.
More of a common sense approach, anyway.
It is, and they're going to want to do it. I've already had calls saying I want to go out and get the black dirt out of my ditch, put it back in my field. Yep.
Are you okay changing the word from dirt to soil?
That is fine with me. I don't care what. Yes.
My dad made a big issue of that.
Okay.
Dirt's underneath your fingernails.
Soil's in the field.
Yes,
okay.
Soil.
So we're dealing with black or blow black soil instead of blow black dirt. That's fine with me. I like that change.
Rich and I talked, twice about this process, and I'm in agreement on almost all of it. I was going to reach out to you early this morning, and then I got on a phone call. But I'm glad you're breaking these out individually, but also it needs to be stated that we're only allowing this process to the sod level.
Yeah, it's just for the blow soil removal, not for any grass or dirt removal below. Yeah, correct.
And
if they're going to do work such as that, they'll still need to go through the permitting process. But if they want to reclaim their blow soil, then they can go out there and get it.
yeah, and I would recommend on the highway ditches that we go through the process of knowing who's out there, who's making the request and permitting, but waive the fee.
Okay.
So that it's
Well,
a legal transfer from the county saying, yes, you can enter the right of way. Here's the terms and conditions. And if you violate, you're going to have to fix or repair. And that's in the same, add that to the second motion on the drainage ditches. It's only to the grass, wherever that elevation is, it's
Yep.
removing blow soil. And because
Yep.
we don't need people cleaning additional 12, 16 inches out of the bottom of a ditch that ultimately might need to be moved.
Right.
And there's some rationale, since they're gonna do it, to do it at that time. But that opens up a whole new box of
Well, right, and
requirements.
I mean, with the county drainage system, the process is gonna be the same. Either way, they're gonna have to fill out the petition to clean. The only difference is instead of me bringing that petition up here and you guys having to formally approve it, you're giving me a blanket approval to remove blow soil from that county ditch, so I can approve it, they can get out there and get the work done.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do more than that, that petition's gonna come to you for your approval.
Right.
Yep.
Just like any other petition would have came to you for your approval. So I'm not asking for that, I'm just asking for the blow soil to make it quicker, get the work
Yep.
done.
Yep.
Because the further we get into April and that blow soil's still there, the more likely we're gonna end up with a 3 or 4 inch rainfall, and now we're gonna end up not only with issues of it backing up water, but it could also be black soil going down every stream, river that's at the end of it, and now you got this
Yep.
non-environmentally friendly flood going on. So
And I agree. Warren's already ordered 2 inches tonight and another 2 next week. So, any more questions on this?
I would move to approve with that one word change.
Gary, motions.
I'll second.
Warren seconds. Any other discussion?
There's no danger of people trying to change the depth of or width of a ditch.
no,
That's
Well,
can be
we will make sure that that's not happening.
okay.
And if it does, we talked about it, they're gonna have to fix it or
Right.
pay a contractor to fix.
There's always the way that they have to restore it back to the way it was. That's not an issue.
Okay.
See
And
on
remember that the highway ditches is only Polk County road ditches. This has nothing to do with township road ditches or state ditches. They have their own process and they have their own approvals. So as landowners hear this, it's only for county roads where their property abuts it, where they have blow dirt in the ditch that they want to reclaim, blow soil in the dirt that they want to reclaim.
it's number 11, isn't it? That's I noticed here on the south side. I mean, it is black as black can be, all the way up to the fence of those
Seeing,
homes.
yep, and those landowners are going to have to decide what they want to do with that soil. So, because we own basically to the power line, they own the rest. And
I don't know
so,
how deep that is, but
well, if it came off of UMC's field,
probably.
what you see is what is there, I'm assuming. It's not, there's not a whole lot of snow there. So,
Yep. Okay.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's a mess.
That is a mess.
So, any other questions, comments?
Well, we can vote.
I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Permit process for removal of low soil approved.
Thank you very much.
Here's the second motion, Rich.
Well, I thought they did both. Did you do both at once, or did you want? Was that just highways, or was that both?
If we could put both
I-
together, I'm fine with that.
That's up to you guys.
Second,
Yeah, it was both.
okay,
Yep, both together is fine.
consensus, okay.
Yeah, it was just written separately and brought up as an individual motion, was my opinion, but if you guys are okay with it as two.
Yes.
We're good.
Or
We're good.
Did you sign those?
Yes.
All six.
Mr. Snyder,
All six.
Morning, everyone.
morning.
It'd be all right. I'm actually gonna do action item 2 first, since I got the applicant here. They send me a lot of stuff. Okay, so second action item, I should say, is a rezone request for a portion of property. Parcel number has been established. It is 09.00016.01. Applicant is RZS Holdings LLP. They're looking to rezone a portion of property that is 11.98 acres in size from the agricultural zoning district to the industrial zoning district. It's located in section 3 of Bigland Township. They are looking at utilizing this parcel for operation of a truck storage shop, construction equipment storage building, and then pipe inventory storage yard. Applicant again is proposing to rezone that portion of property. It is the entirety of a parcel, so that parcel is 11.98 acres. So it is the entire parcel, not a portion of it. From the current district, the agricultural district, to the industrial zoning district. Kind of move forward in with what we allow in our industrial zoning district versus our agricultural district. We kind of talked through a couple of different scenarios about doing an interim use permit. It seems like they want to have quite the investment on the site with a large storage building for semi trucks, as well as some of their equipment. And I'll give it to the applicant here in a minute to talk about kind of their mission statement, what they operate, kind of what services they provide. So really, equipment yards for any type of heavy industry are typically located in our industrial zoning district. This property does abut State Highway 220. It meets all the minimum requirements for a parcel of land being in the agricultural district, or in the industrial district, I should say. Setbacks will all be maintained with their plan. But today, really just looking for a rezone. They have a kind of a multi-year plan, which I'll turn it over to, this is Andrew Zabrel. I'll turn it over to him for a second to kind of discuss, what they see with this site. I'll go to the kind of their proposed sketch of the site, and he can talk about their business. This is some of the equipment that they would utilize. This is a storage yard in Findlay, North Dakota, where they're currently kind of staged. All their operators and all their owners live in Polk County.
All but one.
All but one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to take it over, Andrew, and just kind of explain kind of your site plan here.
I'll give you a little background. Our company was established in 2016 as a horizontal boring company that services BNSF and CP rail for culvert installation through waterways. We travel 18 states from Alabama, Mississippi, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Canadian border, Chicago, everywhere in between. So we're gone a lot. We picked this location because it's off of a state highway, so we can permit off of a state highway in the spring. So it's not a burden to the county or townships just to try stay on the state highway system. It's remote, but it's centralized for the 3 owners that run the daily operation of the business. I live in the south side of Bigland Township along Highway number 9. One of our owners lives in East Grand Forks, and the other one lives 4 miles north of Climax. So, and we have another partner that lives out in Findlay, North Dakota, but we're trying to get out of there because it's more of a time and efficiency standpoint, where if we need something, we have to travel an hour to go get it, to come back, to leave. Or when we do emergency work, when they call if there's a flooding issue or a train derailment and they need a culvert to go in underneath the rail to reestablish their rail system, it takes us, if we got to go east, we got to go west to get our stuff to go east. So it doesn't make any sense for us to continue to stay out there, and that's why we've picked this spot. We found a landowner that was willing to sell us a piece of property. We have basically our blueprint that we've drawn up on what we'd like to do. We have 5 semis right now, where we see in the future ourselves going to maybe 10 semis if we ever double our size, and that would be all that we'd ever get to personally that we want to get to. or comfortable with. And so right now we have a yard or shop in East Grand Forks that we work out of daily for a machine maintenance shop. And that's our only facility right now that we have inside storage. And you know, everything, just as well as anything, everything's expensive. To keep those things under a roof, it's gonna not take value out of anything. So we're looking for a piece of property, bought a piece of property, outside storage. We'd like to have pipe on hand, augers on hand, all of our tools for the job, tasks, and then put up eventually down the road, we'd like to put up a storage facility for our semi trucks, and then keep our maintenance facility in East Grand Forks. So we've already got state permit for the access from, was it Terry or
Terry Condon with
Yeah.
MnDOT.
So we've been working with him, and we have all that in place. We're just looking to basically rezone it so we can establish what our goal is, I guess. And we've bought trees for the outside of the property. We got 2 rows planned. We've gone through all that with the soil district as far as a plan, a blueprint, and they're on board with everything that we want to do. So, any questions?
How many acres in the proposed site?
This is
Just under 12 acres.
the property is 12 acres, just under 12 acres, and we have setback, and there is some grass area, and so I would say eventually, all said and done, there's probably going to be about 8 of it that will be developed.
I think folks are always concerned about the traffic of semis, and it looks like your report basically Mondays and Fridays.
Yeah, because we typically when we go out of town to our job sites that are many states away, we leave Monday mornings at 6 o'clock, and usually we're back by, say, Thursday afternoon, evening-ish, or throughout the day on Friday, depending on how far we got to come back. And some weeks we're gone for two weeks at a time. We wouldn't leave we'd leave on a Monday and then come home the following Friday. And there's 5 semis when we talk. There's 5 semis that leave and a pickup truck with a tool trailer. And when we talk to the state about our traffic, they didn't deem that a
Turn lane
was necessary because of the amount. If we were having multiple semis throughout the day,
Yeah,
all day,
right.
every day, Monday through Friday, then there would be more discussion
An
about
issue.
that. But it's kind of like when a farmer goes into a field, when they're harvesting that field, are they there for many weeks at a time? No, it's a short time. So, and they were okay. Like everything that we've presented all this to the state too, and they haven't had any issue with anything that we've wanted to talk. I mean, they've asked thousands of questions and everything that we just keep. This is what we want to do. I mean, we're not trying to hide anything. This is exactly.
We see projects too where people are putting trees,
Mm-hmm.
but without water, a lot of times we lose them. Is that a concern that you've addressed?
As far as the ability to water the trees?
Or do you
Keep
think
'em
you
alive.
plan to, or
Oh,
you
yeah.
just plant a little 1-foot tree and hope that someday it'll?
No, we have
What's your plan?
for as far as the trees and the buffer barrier.
Yes.
So the
Keep them
tree,
alive, keep them there.
the trees that we have in right now are flame willows, or that we have proposed. So there's one row of flame willows 10 foot off the line, and then I think he's got like 400 or something like that around the perimeter, and then another 10 or 15 feet in, there's blue spruce or black spruce. So, and the gentleman from the soil, he wants us to water them one time and let them go.
Okay.
And he said that after the first year, you come back and you figure out your skips and you plant them back in and water them one more time. And he said after that, everything should grow. If we need to water, we'll water. And we are like, this is just the first step of our process because we don't plan on building anything out there until year 2026. and we want to put an approach in. We have a permit for the approach. We want to get our trees established and then plant the whole thing in grass so we can maintain it so it's not a nuisance to the community and mow it. And we want to be good stewards of the land, and we want to be good neighbors. We don't have any plans of being a nuisance to anyone, to being a bad neighbor. You can come over to East Grand Forks and ask our two neighbors on the north and south side of our property, and you'll drive down our street and you'll see that ours is the nicest one on the whole block.
Well, that's what we like to see.
Yeah.
We did discuss at the public hearing about the drift, talk to the Thorsons there. They
Yeah.
operate the farm.
Yeah.
That is a concern whenever you're doing little windbreaks in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
Well, and you're not really on a middle of a field, but for them to be aware,
Mhm.
windy day, you hit that stuff with the egg chemicals and they don't make it. And Morgan, he's an arborist at the SWCD. That's probably who you talk to.
Yeah.
They're looking at, you're having the SWCD plant those.
Correct.
Yeah. So they have the plow that they put in. They get it to a depth where those roots can kind of get in the ground a little better than somebody hand augering them in.
Yeah.
So.
We want to do all this in the right way and the right steps. We don't have time in our business. We don't have time to dedicate to wasting time. 100%. And we want to do this the right way. We want to do it once and be done and have it a staple on the side of the road driving by. Oh, that's a nice place.
It's a good plan.
That's what we want.
Is this site in Bigland Township? or
Correct.
Yep.
this is
Section
north
3.
End of, north end of Big.
Yep.
Okay, I see it on the map here.
Yep. Right on the fringe of Huntsville Township and Bigland Township. Right off 220.
Yeah.
I do have a couple pictures. I didn't want to go out there when it was just snow, so I pulled some pictures off Google Earth. This is basically where they're right north of those little white arrows is where they would create an access, kind of in the middle of no man's land. So, this is looking back on State Highway 220. Looking north, there are some residences. There was 6 residences within a mile. Closest was a quarter mile to the southwest.
How far
Skipping over. What was that?
How far out of town is it?
5 miles. 4 or 5
5,
miles.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a pipeline that crosses this field, but none of that pipeline touches any of the property that they acquired from Thorson's.
Yep.
It actually runs from this marker and starts heading east. So not a concern with them trying to develop, with a pipeline in the way, because they won't let you put nothing over the top of that, and there's an easement and all that stuff. So one thing they kind of did avoid the northwest corner of that particular section. Obviously, there's a culvert somewhere in here that directs water. There's 2 tributaries to the Red Lake River on each side of this. And so they kind of avoided the far northwest corner because that does get a little wet in the spring on a real big year. This was spring of 22. Most water we've seen most of these waterways have in quite some time. So
Not this year.
probably not this year. Unless it rains, you keep praying for rain, so. Other things, so MnDOT did comment. They were the only ones that comment. They have no issue with any of the rezoning. Obviously, they don't look at that. What they look at is they have issued the permit for them to have an access off of State Highway 220, and that was really why we reach out to MnDOT so that they would be able to provide access into the site, that they're not going to make them do a total highway rebuild to use the site the way they presented. I don't think I had anything else that I didn't already touch on, other than, I guess, Planning Commission and staff recommendation is that this request is compatible with the Polk County Comprehensive Plan as requested. Commercial industrial use furthers the purpose of the consent, consistent with business development along a major state trunk highway. The site use allows the business to utilize the highway for large vehicle loads instead of county or township roads. that would require further maintenance of those roadways. Also, increased employment would further the comp plan's aim to expand and diversify job opportunities and incomes. The use would hopefully lead to employment and retention of those locally employed individuals, thereby reducing the need to commute to larger cities for work. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the rezone, and planning commission, I should say, of that 11.9 acre parcel, parcel number 09.00161. That's 01, sorry about the typo, with the following condition. Bigland Township must sign off on all permits for the development on this site, including if the township has to also rezone the parcel on a local township level. Side note, we did notice this out to Bigland Township. Applicants been in contact with Bigland Township. We don't believe that they're gonna do anything on the township level, but if they should, you'd have to go through that process with Bigland Township. So we do joint permitting with Bigland Township, Huntsville Township. That's simply a minor condition. We would do that anyway to satisfy the ordinance. So, questions?
12 acres big enough for 10 semis? I don't know.
Well, it's a rather large building that, I mean, we're not doing any of the permitting on the building or anything at this point, but I think that was adequate size for what they're looking at using it for.
Good. I'm not opposed at all.
Right now, our one partner in our business, the S in ours, yes, he has 6 acres and he has a 100 by 200 shop shed out there and he runs 30 semis.
Oh my goodness.
And so we felt that with what we have, our footprint out there at his place and the building that we would want, we felt that 6 acres was sufficient for our operation. That's why we bought 12, because if we ever doubled,
Oh, sure.
we would have enough
Sure.
acreage to where we could get to that size.
Oh, sure.
That's kind of where we came up with that. It's 12 acres.
You have kids. That's why you're planning ahead.
I have 4 kids, yes.
Yeah, see?
The one thing is we do have impervious surface coverage limits too, so I
Yeah.
guess staff is comfortable with 12. If we were on a little
Right.
4 acre plot or something, we'd get a little bit nervous about
Right.
how are we gonna build on that tract. So 12 should be adequate.
Okay.
I would move to approve.
Me a second.
Warren, motions, Paul seconds. Any other questions, comments?
No, I think they've put a lot of time into this. Appreciate that.
Good job.
About 3 years.
What it
Been
takes.
talking for a while.
Looking for a piece of property.
Yeah.
All in favor of the redistricting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. I'll send you out a letter here. Forgot I gotta go back.
Yeah.
Okay, next action item I have is conditional use request for Dragseth Farms, Inc. This would be for operation of a custom animal butcher business on parcel 60.00116.01. Applicants are requesting a conditional use permit to build a 50 by 80 custom butcher shop for processing of livestock. As well, they would like to get into, deer, pigs. They kind of have to sort through that with the USDA Department of Ag because of some of the restrictions with the wild game versus pork versus red meats. This particular business would be located on a 15-acre portion of land in our agricultural zoning district, section 22, Rome Township. This particular operational plan stating that they would not be selling individual cuts of meat to individuals. They would be simply taking the animals that they bring them, preparing them, packaging them, and giving them back to
The farmer.
the person, hunter, whoever.
Yeah.
Projected hours would be 8 to 5. Approximately 5 individuals would run the butcher shop. It was unclear at the time of the public hearing if they needed a sign or whatnot, but they didn't want to do a sign right now. They're not hitting traffic. I'll show you where the site is, and you'll kind of know they're not on a major highway or anything. So For signage in the future, if they need, they'll meet all zoning ordinance requirements and size and setbacks. So, kind of in our zoning ordinance, this is section 13.7003, which states a conditional use to operate a farm-related business, which we feel is, this falls right in that suit. They're taking something, utilizing something locally grown and producing a commodity. So, it does require conditional use in our ordinance. So site location, this is County Highway, I believe it's 16 that runs north of Eldred. It's about 3 miles north of Eldred, and this is a township road here, 320th. This site would be located right smack dab in the middle of two homesteads that are both owned by Dragseth families. So a couple of plots of residential, egg buildings, their kind of farm operation. Butcher shop would be smack dab in the middle of these two driveways, and the septic area would be in between the building and the township road. We do have a septic design for that. This is kind of their operational plan. We will get a final copy of that from Jody Dragseth. Septic sketch, so just how they're looking at putting a septic system on the site, again in between the road and the building. So I'm actually sitting on that county highway in the intersection with the 320th there, Township Road. This is the western drive into that site, kind of stripped off some black dirt, preparing for the building. And I'm kind of looking back at the Township Road there as the building is staked right smack in the middle of those two driveways coming in. And some of the agricultural buildings that are to the north of it. Questions?
Question on, I'm okay with the location, everything's good. On animal carcass disposal, was that addressed?
Yeah.
Yes. So they are working with the USDA to potentially do composting on the site. And composting animal carcasses within a sealed, contained container. That would be something that is allowed in our solid waste ordinance. It would just be that they can't have up to 120 cubic yards of compost without obtaining a different permit through our office. They don't feel they'd ever reach that type of volume. But we did put it as a condition that solid waste generated by this business shall be disposed of according to all local and state regulations. So follow all our local solid waste ordinance rules, and there will be no issues. So
If there's a problem with the permit process or the composting, does our landfill take multiple carcasses?
we would, yeah, we currently accept byproducts from B&E meats and other facilities like this. So yeah, we can accept it at our landfill. We would encourage them to pursue the composting. That is a great reuse of the resource. So we're encouraging them to do that. That's great. If it doesn't need to come through our system, you're just going to have your normal trash that comes with it, your packaging, the other things that need to come to us.
You did say there would be 5 people involved with this?
Projected to be 5 employees.
They would not be full-time, would they, or?
I would assume that during deer season that would increase.
Yeah.
There's going to be 3 family employees operating it to begin with, and then I would say as needed, they would have to bring in. I don't know if it's other family members or that peak 5, because if you get some request that, hey, I need to slaughter 50 pigs in a month, you're probably going to need more hands. So that's just to give us a general idea of the scope of the business. Are we talking that there's going to be 20 people out there flaying meat every day, or it sounds like they're going to be held to their capacity just by the coolers they have, just by the storage they have, their lockers. It was mentioned at the public hearing that for them to go to red meat to pork, it's a total clean of the entire facility. They can't have any of them mixing. And that's really a state requirement, Department of Ag. So in order for them to operate, they're gonna need to have some employees that's cleaning, doing, to prep for some of those bigger things that come in, you know. I don't know what their market is, you know, that's not our job to determine if you have a good business plan. We hope it's a successful business for them, that'd be great. And we hope that composting works out with them securing a permit through the USDA.
They're looking at a 24 by 36 foot cooler.
Oh, that's nice.
So, I mean, they're making good investment.
They're looking to do some work. So.
In this facility, there's a home right on the same building site.
Correct. I believe that's their grandfather's home, right east of it.
So if there's any problems, they're gonna know it before it gets out.
He'll tattletale on them before we get too far down the road. So, just some general conditions that we had. I went over the solid. This was Planning Commission and staff recommended approval with these conditions. The operation shall remain in the scope of the original plan of operations. Any deviation from the plan of operations would trigger a new conditional use permit. That would be just the scope. Hey, we're doing this big addition and we're gonna have 20 employees out there, then we're coming back. Solid waste generated by the business shall be disposed of according to all local state regulations. The conditional use shall become void 1 year after it was granted unless used. It's a very standard one. You can always do extensions. And then the other 6 are our standard conditional uses: play nice with your neighbor, fit in, have access roads, drainage, all those things.
There's a need for this.
Yeah, I believe there is.
Huge need.
Yep. So I got a resolution for the conditional use permit request for Dragseth Farms to build a 50 by 80 accessory building for custom butcher shop of livestock and processing in our agricultural zoning district of Rome Township with those conditions.
I so move.
I'll second.
Paul motions, Warren seconds. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor of the CUP?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion granted.
Okay, my last action item seems intimidating, but it is simply a landowner that was granted a conditional use permit that no longer is going to fulfill that conditional use permit. We issued a permit for this particular parcel, excuse me, to operate a bakery on parcel 49.0032.03. It was to be established as Backwind Foods, Inc. They had sent us an email stating that they are no longer operating or doing that business. They did not build the storage building. They had a minimal operation out of the homestead for a little while. They were looking at securing something in the city limits of Crookston. The last we spoke several years ago, that didn't materialize either. Individual actually took a different job. He's smart enough to be a rocket scientist, so we'll just let him do that, pursue that avenue of business. So I'm just looking for approval of this resolution to terminate that recorded resolution so that that just doesn't hang out there in La La Land. For Brian Plant, really clerical housekeeping. They paid the recording fee to have this resolution also recorded. So we appreciate that from the applicants. They didn't fulfill anything with the conditional use, so we're going to take it away.
So moved.
Motions. I'll second. All of in favor of termination of said document, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Termination granted.
Thank you.
Before you slide out, Jake, I think fortunate it's a milestone birthday for you today, right?
Oh yeah, I'm getting old. 40. So
Oh, that's good. At least.
yeah. Yeah, I know. Still upright and moving, so we're good.
Congratulations, you're
Thank you.
on the downhill swing now.
Yeah, I know. Over the hill.
The
Are you
40-year
gonna-
middle age.
Yeah, yeah. I hope. Township meeting
Yep,
Thursday. You'll be there. I
Yep.
talked to Gene Dufault, and he was wondering if you could bring something up about the rural water, that proposed rural water supply. That's been kind of talked about. Just a little snip. I don't know if you want to call Gene and let him know.
I think that's in a little bit of a tender discussion mode right now.
Yeah, you got Gene's number though. You can call him. And,
No, I don't.
Okay. I'll email you Gene's number.
Send
wanna
it
just
to
tell-
my personal.
Personal email. Okay, we'll do.
Thank you.
Are you still available on the 16th? Okay, because I gotta set that EIS meeting up.
Just question, I mean, you've been following the proposed
5 minute.
budget
We'll
cuts.
adjourn for 5 minutes.
Come back, I'm in Bemidji in the morning, so I have to get back for that.
I'll see you on Thursday.
Okay, we'll go back in session. We have Sarah Reese next up.
Good morning.
Morning.
So the first item that I have is advertisement and hiring for 2 budgeted positions. The first position is a wellness coordinator. So both are budgeted, and so just looking for the approval to advertise and hire for those positions and any subsequent vacancies if we have any internal shifting.
So moved.
Joan motions on both,
Second.
and Gary seconds. All in favor to advertise, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Granted.
Thank you. The second item is I just wanted to provide you a bit of an update about the COVID-19 funding. We learned last week that, and you probably heard it in the news as well, that the federal government terminated several grants to the Minnesota Department of Health and across the nation. And they were specifically related to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was called Federal COVID-19 Vaccine Implementation and Recovery Grant is the technical term for it. And so there was one funding umbrella, and it had two pots of money. One was for vaccine related functions, so staffing, promotion, education, working with businesses in healthcare, responding, like all things related to vaccine. And then the other pot of money was, they called it ELC, and honestly, I don't even know what that stands for. But essentially, it was for non-vaccine funds, and those were related to staff and community recovery. So, community assessment processes, supporting mental health and subsequent mental health and substance use issues that we've seen kind of flare up over the last several years. Our staff recovery, there has definitely been initiatives to support our staff because it was a very difficult time. And so that there's two sides of the funding. And so because the Minnesota Department of Health received their termination announcement, of course, very quickly after on March 27th, we received an initial notification, and then we received a formal letter on March 27th that required MDH, of course, to immediately terminate their programming with us, effective on March 24th. And so there's a few sort of elements that I just want to make you aware of. Number one is the means or eligible expenses for this funding were very narrow in nature, and that was due to, after the executive orders changed last year, there was a shift in eligible expenses. And so by virtue of that shift in eligible expenses, I did very conservative budgeting for 2025 because I envisioned a change to the funding structure, just in the reality of how all of it was playing out. And so in our 2025 budget, we budgeted around $11,000. And so I'm actually, for this first quarter, looking at about $11,000 to $12,000. So we'll spend all of that. Most of it is staff time. There's a few other things that were eligible expenses. We were allocated more funds, but at the time that we did our budget, because of the change in eligibility of funds, we hadn't gone through all of the approval processes by the state. And so I didn't build those into the budget because they were not yet approved. And so our impact to our budget is very minimal in the grand scheme of things, and we're recuperating all of the expenses that we had budgeted for. So obviously there are things that we were hoping to do into 2025 that we won't be doing anymore. But in terms of our biggest expense, obviously in our department, is our people, right? Our people power. And so we had conservatively budgeted that, so we're not going to feel a giant impact because I had rerouted people's work, because obviously we can't bill a funding source that we don't have eligible expenses for. So feeling good about that. Last quarter, we were having some issues with our vaccine fridge in Crookston and our vaccine freezer in East Grand Forks. So we were able to get those updated, and those are sort of those foundational elements that we need to maintain. They're very expensive. They were an eligible and expense. So that was an example of something that was done last year. And met the criteria, but we didn't have any heavy hitters like that this year. So just wanted to let you know that funding is terminated, and we'll be submitting our final invoice for that. And I'm still feeling very comfortable about our budget, and utilizing all the funds that are budgeted. So happy to answer any questions. I may or may not have an answer for you, but happy to answer any questions if you have any. And that's what I know for now.
So you had stated that with the cancellation of those funds, you are fairly confident for 25, the budget will be okay.
Yes.
As you spin the dial, have you thought through the process going into 26?
So I feel like there's many things in motion, both at the state and federal level. So it's a little hard to predict. We are, we knew that the COVID funding would be going away. So some of this funding was already slated to end in June, and some was slated to end next spring. So since receiving this funding, we've been talking about like eventually these things are going to be our responsibility again, like they were pre-pandemic. And so I have been structuring the budget to build it back into our normal flows of work, so we don't have the $200,000 cut or the $100,000 cut. And so as of right now, we're still sitting good and looking good into the future. We also there is some funding from the state, like for our foundational public health responsibilities and our response, like our emergency preparedness funding. And so there's some pieces of this work that foundationally can fit because it's policy work or it's partnership work or it's public health exercises. So it would be an applicable response into the future. And so I'm being mindful of that as we go forward too. So I'm still feeling good about it. There was, I don't want to call them extra because they weren't extra, but the things that were still on the docket were definitely our community engagement strategies, some of our outreach to families. Like some of those things aren't going to happen in the structured way that we had planned for them in 2025, and yet I still think we're still creative with how we do our work, right? Like we did this before we had this funding. And so we just have to lean back in on some of those. So I think it'll be okay. And yet it's still a pot of money that's no longer available. So, and frankly, we are still responding to COVID. Like we have situations that happen, in our correctional setting or in other community settings that we're providing feedback on how to manage situations. We're definitely still taking questions from people about, what to do or where to go to, or they have questions about like their loved one is sick. Like, should I get the meds for that? Should I not? And so we're connecting folks to their healthcare provider. So we're definitely still getting questions. Of course, it's just more spontaneous. And so it's just, we're building that back into our disease prevention and control role, just like if it were some other infectious disease that folks reached out to us about. So.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Okay, so the state's cut was 226 million.
Mhm.
So do you know of that, like how much stayed at the state level versus gets pushed down, or
I don't know that answer. I don't know that answer for that funding source specifically. I know that the state, because of their cut to the state health department, they're looking at the services and staffing that they have, and likely the layoffs that will be affiliated with that will have a local impact. Like we've been asked to think about what is our capacity within epidemiology? What is our capacity within data? What is our capacity within these different areas? Because that it's a significant portion of their budget, and so all of that is in motion, and we don't know I would guess in the next coming days we'll know more, but it'll be a little more reactive. But obviously nobody knew that this was coming. So
no. But like you mentioned that, as things that are classified as COVID funding, that they have to go away at some point.
absolutely, yes, absolutely. Hmm.
Because it has not been COVID has not been listed as a pandemic or a federal health issue for a while now. So to still have COVID funding available seems a little far-fetched.
I think there was like part of our specific funding had the piece around response or vaccine, but it also had the piece around community recovery and around staff recovery. And that's still a very real issue, a very real issue. And so I agree. I mean, I think that's why I did the budget so conservatively. Like I envisioned that change happening. And also there's just only so many eligible expenses, and at some point they're going to utilize the funding in a different way. So
Yep.
Yep. So while it's unfortunate, I'm not surprised.
Right.
Anything else?
No. Any other questions, comments? Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Melby, come on down.
Good morning.
Morning, Sam.
The first item I have is it's a resolution for Polk County to continue being sponsoring the Sand Hill Snow Cruisers and the Crookston Drift Busters snowmobile clubs. We serve as their fiscal agent. And last time when I brought this to the board, they asked that we do it before July 1st. I had done it in November, not knowing that they wanted it to go more in line with the state's fiscal year. So this time I'm ahead of the game and bringing it to you now. So we will be prepared to carry forward for the years of 2026 through 2028.
So moved.
Second.
Gary motions, Joan seconds. I noticed a typo there, 23.
Here, this is
Or
the
that's the
resolution
number.
number.
That's the number
Oh,
of the
okay.
resolution.
Yep,
Okay, gotcha.
the 23rd resolution of this year.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
Thank you. Just a side note on that, on the snowmobile clubs, we did hold financial reviews with the DNR over the last year for both clubs. Both went very well. Sandhill is kind of reorganizing with some newer leadership, but they're working well with the DNR and everything seems to be going very well. So thought I would let you guys know that. The second item I have is just some information. The Department of Public Safety notified us that they wanted to exercise their option to renew the lease for the license center. It was in section 5 of the lease that was signed in 2022, I believe it was. When they renewed their services after shutting down during the pandemic. So this option provides for 2 more years at the same terms, which is $195 a quarter or $780 for the year for the state to lease that. So there's nothing for anybody to sign or anything like that as
Make it off so cheap.
Yeah, we'll have to look at those terms in 2027.
I mean,
Well,
we
2020.
don't get nothing from them that daggone cheap.
I agree, and I don't know where the terms originated.
I'm just asking.
Yep. Yeah, for 600 square feet.
Where is this site? Right there, okay.
Budgetarily, how is the license center doing?
You want? No. It's the transactions have been on pace of normal years. It's right in
That was
line
a
with
great
where it
answer.
normally is.
Well, I think it's a very nice service that
Mhm.
we're offering, especially here in Crookston. And yeah, when I saw the rates too, I'm going, but it's a nice service and it's only 600 square feet. It's not like it's 3,000 square feet. So,
Right, and we do get some of the funds from each transaction. Um, they come here to do the Thursday tests for the driving tests.
Mm-hmm.
When passed, they come down here to
Mhm.
do business. So it's a good partnership. Yeah,
We get other benefit
yes,
perks by having it here.
and now that we're fully staffed and getting close to everybody being fully trained and being able to do all of the
Public
transactions
service,
too.
if nothing else.
Mhm.
Yes,
okay.
that's
Any other questions, comments?
nothing else. I'll turn it over to Chuck.
Do we need to?
No, there's no action on that. They just
Decision
exercise
only.
their option. So
Mm.
thank you very much.
So what
Thank
if we,
you.
if we said we wanted more rent?
We'll do it next time.
Yeah, we'd have
Next
to do
time.
it. We'd have to do it through the next contract because this one provided for them to extend at no additional.
Hindsight.
As Sam mentioned, it is before July 1st.
That's
What's coming up?
Yeah, that actually resonates with me. I probably need to explain a little bit about why I have this on the agenda because I believe I may have spoke to the finance committee about how I thought we weren't really ready for this in my thinking in what we are doing with ABDO and longer term finance enterprise type software. However, I kind of realized I do have the budget process about to start. I usually come about this time of year with a calendar that lays out every meeting until the end of the year. And we have to either redo how we've done it in the past, which is not only very cumbersome, but relatively inexact, or look to where I was thinking at the end of a software acquisition process that there would be a budget component that would be part of new software. Abdo advised me to take a look at the product that you've seen here from Questica. I did watch it. I was very impressed. There was a lot of things that could be done in terms of not only managing the budget process, but utilizing the information in a much better way. I think the realization to me, and perhaps why I did a bit of a 180 on it, was actually have the people in place right now to do this. I need to have something done. The people who did the prior process using Excel aren't here, and there was a lot of hand entry, a lot of rekeying, a lot of multiple spreadsheets that would get updated and tried to be managed throughout the fall. This would be a product that would allow direct input of budget information from departments. But probably the key part of it is it links with the software that we have right now, both IFS and the Kronos UKG product. If I'm going to have to put together a methodology to do the budget, perhaps I ought to do one that actually would work with what we have. And it can be modified when and if new software is acquired. So I did have the review with them, and there would need to be a rollout time, which is why I'm here today and not waiting another couple of weeks, because now I can see the budget process starting in June. Usually we have data input June, July for department heads, and then we start looking in earnest in end of July and August for where the overall picture is going. I also contacted Dodge County, the administrator there, and one key thing he told me was that he doesn't really deal with this; his finance director does.
Great.
Which I have to remember. I most places I've worked, that's where the real budgeting takes place. And last meeting, you gave us the go-ahead to start looking for a finance director. So on the off chance that we find one relatively quickly, we implement this software, we work with department heads, this person would now have the methodology to manage not only the budget, but the information that comes with it that would allow not only the board and myself to make decisions, but department heads to be looking at things maybe a little bit differently than what they're doing. I've already had talks with Abdo about trying to clean up our chart of account structure, make it a little bit more tightly fitting from department to department, more consistent. But what's key is to be able to give the department heads and their finance people underneath them a good way of managing data. And this would be something that the data could be entered into this. It can then be downloaded into IFS. We can upload personnel data, which is really one of the banes of how we've been doing things. We know what everybody's going to be paid, but everybody has to hand calculate it. Then it has to get checked, and then it gets changed because people come and people go, and it usually ends up being a 4 or 5 month check and recheck process done on a spreadsheet by people. When we have all the wage data, the wage grids, everything at our disposal in Kronos, but we just either don't use it or don't have it set up to dump the budgeting portion into the overall budget. So that would not only be a huge for staff, but it'd be more accurate as well. So I did end up changing my mind because I realized I have technically a finance director with the Abdo people, and they know how to do this, and they have a team to do it. And it would seem this would be suddenly the opportune time to move on it. And frankly, it may also relieve us a little bit of pressure of dealing with the accounting software, because I wasn't quite sure how we were going to get to that this year anyway.
Bigger picture.
Yeah. We're looking at Kronos for utilizing that software better, and in all likelihood it'll be back in a few weeks, proposing that we move payroll into Kronos. It's in a different software right now. It's on the AS400, which doesn't link to anything. There's no data management going from the time entry into the payroll. So there's a lot of hand keying that goes on that is just not really productive work. So this product resides on the cloud. It's also part of Sourcewell, which is
Staples.
one of the state's collective purchasing outfits out of Staples. if you've ever been down there for Staples, Minnesota, it's quite a facility. However, the proposal they've given us is actually better than the Sourcewell price. So I want to get
My
down.
hometown.
Is it?
Yeah, what is Sourcewell? Is that company that services all these they
Cities and
outsource-
counties? Yeah,
Yeah.
they we're not actually a member because I've never really had a way to go at an organized purchasing approach. But I mean, it's there, and it kind of helps cities and counties with competitive purchasing. Um,
of everything
yeah,
under God's earth.
yeah, and if you go into their facility, it's
It's a very
quite
nice
a place.
building.
I've gone to meetings down there. It's a very nice facility. I don't know how it came to be in Staples, but it's actually kind of nice to know that something like that exists outside of the metro. However, we wouldn't need to use Sourcewell here. I almost started processing how to do membership and all that, but then it became clear that it's not necessary right now for this. There is a cost to it, and I want to get down to that.
Be free.
Well, it may be the kind of thing that helps us save money in other ways. It's a 3-year subscription because it resides in the cloud. We don't have to purchase any equipment. We don't have to have any technicians. They'll work with us, with our IT staff, our finance people, our HR people. First year, $39,500 with a one-time fee of $15,000, $54,500. That's year one. Year two, they have service maintenance, 3% increase. So for 3 years, it's $137,090.55. I'm sure unless we are totally dissatisfied with it, we will not need to come back and do further budgeting software. I think this will reside over whatever data we're using, and then we just have to have it interact back and forth, and that's part of the service that they provide.
And Abdo recommended these?
Yes, they brought it to me actually, and listened to my doubts and didn't push me very hard. I think it just took me about a week to realize that I was missing the picture here. I was thinking, I don't know that I am capable of doing this. This would require a team. Well, they're the team right now, and not only can they do this, but do it right, and probably streamline a lot of our budgeting at the same time, meaning the accounting for it. So last time I talked with Gary and Joan in finance, I think I may have said too early, but
Well, yeah, but I know, I mean, you had alluded to that, you had looked at some software and stuff, so it really wasn't a total surprise to me.
No, I've done some research on this group. Both my children are involved in selling software.
sure.
So this company does have very good lot of recommendations, I guess, and
Reputation.
a lot of companies. And for the dollars it's very possible. And I keep saying you can buy whatever kind of software, but if you don't have people to run it, it's just going to sit there, and people are going to go, oh, I think I'll just do it the way we were doing it. So that's actually very good timing that these people can implement this. And then it's even going to get more complicated when you add the accounting software, but at least people are going to, our staff are going to get a little bit more training and really concentrate at work too on how to get things initially set up.
Now, this is strictly software, it's not equipment of any,
Right. Yeah. Again, it all resides in the cloud, so it doesn't even need a server or anything. I'll keep Levi out, naturally clued in on it because we're going to need the ability to I don't know how you do it, what you call it, but that link between the software and our data, along with, well, Abdel should be able to help us on that. But we're also talking to Kronos on some aspects of this, and that'll help too.
I don't have necessarily a problem after our discussion yesterday about the agenda and this item. Like thinking about the agenda and the meeting last night, I came up with some questions. I understand where you're coming from on the budget process because it's a very cumbersome process. But from the software side and scroll down the final page, is there a backdoor or up where the payment due per year? Is there a backdoor? Let's say we get into it,
Don't like it.
13 months down the road and nobody likes it. Can we back out? And
I believe so. I mean, the easiest way is just simply not pay for it anymore. But I can follow up on that because I did think of that. That wasn't really anything I had discussed with them. The one thing I did discuss, I'm deviating a little bit from your question, but I wanted to touch on this here, is an actual implementation work plan that is needed. And while I'm looking for the go-ahead on it, I actually want that from Abdo to jive with this, and I'll follow up on that too. What if it just simply doesn't work? One of the things that I've experienced is a lot of times it doesn't work not because of the product, but because of what we're doing.
Correct.
So I sometimes we have to. That isn't always apparent until we get into it a little bit deep, but I go back to having Abdo on board right now instead of handing this to a staff person who, may not, I mean, I don't have the capabilities for it, and I wouldn't expect that of anybody internally, but having a team that can say, here's what you need to do, here's how you do this, I think we have a much better chance of making it work where we don't have to worry about that. But I'll follow up on that because it's not clear in there.
Like you've spoken in the past about even getting the county assets, if you would, and will this software even deal with that? Or
Not from an accounting standpoint. I'd have to go and look at it more closely to see where that fits in because that information should be something that can be extracted and then manipulated for planning purposes. And that's one of the things that this offers is where are you going? Where are you going to be in 3-5 years? And how do you show that?
because I mean, we're looking at basically 140,000 divided by 3. That's 45,000 a year for 3 years. And then what do we do
After that.
the next 3 years and
Right.
the next 3 years? So it's a longer term commitment than just the 54,000 for
Right.
this
Right.
next year. So that's anytime I get involved in software type decisions, I always thinking down the road.
Yep.
But and with the complexities of government operations, all of these pinwheels that are out there, to keep them all spinning and I understand from your side, like you told me yesterday, the budget process is cumbersome. I fully understand that, but
Are they, my question to add to that is this particular company able to advance and move with that times, with those times? So that as we move year to year to year to year,
I,
that we don't know.
how do I put this? I think they are well ahead of where we are.
I agree.
So
I
it's
agree.
it's
I agree.
probably for us to catch up.
Yes.
I think without really having to do too much with our accounting software, we will suddenly be able to see and deal with a lot of the data in a different way than we've been doing. The kind of reports you're used to seeing and things, and I think we can upgrade those.
Joan, do you remember the dollar figure with those software packages we were looking at 3 or 4 or 5 years ago?
Well,
They were
Tyler was about what 900,000,
900,000. So,
but that
and
was a full.
that's the full
That
thing,
was
and
everything.
that may be the next step. But I think it's very important to be careful on the software because there are a lot of companies out of there. They'll give you a deal, but you will get what you
Yep.
paid for.
Mhm.
And to get good stuff that has a reference from not only Abdo but other people that are using it that say it's okay.
Mhm.
I remember Public Health. They went with one that they thought was a good deal.
Mhm.
Wasn't an expensive one,
No,
but after
but
1 or 2 years, they said, this that not even do what we were sold. I mean, there's a lot of good salesmen out there that'll sell you a bunch of
See.
junk. So that has to be probably the biggest decision we're gonna have to make.
See,
But
I'm-
my goodness, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I'm not very good at this kind of stuff, but I was looking at the very first page, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Go to your very first page. Because I'm not very bright at this, I'm telling you. This is not my strong suit in life.
Well, it's like a foreign language to.
So was it right there? Yeah, right there. So I'm reading this and you're talking and I'm looking, I says, you're putting out a product like this. And Paul Reese, who is not very good at proofreading anything, there's a typo here, couple typos. A big expensive company makes a typo and I can catch it. City of La Vista, Nebraska is on there twice. Why? And I catch this. Okay. Why does a big company like this make a mistake like this on their advertisement? It's just something Paul says, why you, but Abdo is recommending this. People make mistakes. I understand that.
Well, this is a low cost. So,
I mean, I understand
for
that.
expectations that.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But I'm bringing that up just because
Be careful.
that's all I wanted to say is I am not opposed to trying this. Abdo is recommending it. And there's only if you take City of La Vista away, there's only 19 other people that have this program. Because that's what they're advertising, right? That was my point. I was counting them. I says there's 20, and I was reading through them. There's 20. No, there ain't. There's 19. So why is there only 19 people have this? That was just a question that popped up.
I don't think this is all their
But that's what they're
they
advertising.
shouldn't have somebody on there twice.
I thought that was interesting. I mean, city of Seattle, Washington. I mean, that's a pretty big city
That's a huge city.
compared to Marshall, Minnesota.
And then they got a lot of Minnesota people, or a lot of Minnesota counties. Are they focusing on us Minnesotans? I don't know. Is this a Minnesota company?
They're a national company.
Okay.
Frankly, I don't remember where they were talking to me from because it was online. They had about 3 or 4 guys, and they had the 2 Abdel people on it. And I'm just
don't get me wrong. I'm okay with if we decide to try them for their price. I am okay because Abdo, I trust Abdo.
Yeah.
They have been good to us to this point.
They know it. They work this.
Exactly. I have no
what
problem.
works
But I'm
with
just wondering.
Without that, though, I would be very questioned.
Right. You're advertising to me and you make it. I don't catch typos. Sorry, you guys.
We have just this one option here. What, are there others?
Yeah, I actually get contacted all the time about this kind of stuff. It's not that unusual of a software. And
Oh, I
frankly,
know.
when you think about it, and Gary probably knows this, it's the kind of thing that a business or a business like Questa could do, because here's your information. They don't do the accounting. They just extract the data and give it back to you in a format
And
to
put it in a format. Yeah,
deal with it.
exactly. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and when we looked at the Tyler software a few years ago, this really wasn't one of the things that they had. I mean,
No.
it was available, just like using this or whatever else, but it was really dedicated to the accounting, the asset management. You could do budgeting on it from an endpoint and compilation standpoint. And I imagine it would have, there must have been some part of that where you could do something maybe a little bit more rigorous than what we do. This I don't want to say it's overkill. It'll do way more than what we're used to doing,
Sure.
but we'll be able to grow into it
Sure.
and do what we want to do. But as some of you know, I mean, I've been concerned about our ability to really understand where we're going. We're not too bad at accounting for what we've done, but where does that put us into the future? And frankly, we have our methodology, the hand entering repetitive data, updated in a zillion different spreadsheets. You know, we've had errors, big errors, and things that didn't get caught because you have to. It's not always sure who's putting in the data, and I'm not casting aspersions on anyone. The intention was always well, but we had that one year where we realized the Thursday before the budget levy was adopted, after the public hearings, after the months and months of work, we had a $600,000 error on the one of the bond issues. We corrected it, but I mean, I needed department heads to come up with $600,000 after all the public input we've had, all the process, just to make it work at the end date.
I'm more comfortable doing a process like that than buying software for
The big
$1 million,
or multi-millions.
and that is going to expire or reach its useful life without updating. And
Yes.
what are those
I agree.
updates going
I
to
agree.
cost? Where it's probably apparent here that the company is always behind the scenes doing updates. Is there any discussion on update costs?
They just update. You know, they just do it in the cloud. They're doing it for all their clients.
And I see there's 7, 8 more there. No, I just read these. These guys are not on the list. Edmonton,
Nope.
Southampton's, and then now the city of High Point. So there's more. No, these aren't on that other list too.
And I think the real benefit too is also when we're looking at hiring a finance person, he or she is going to be a lot happier to know that we have something
Exactly.
rather than they have to start from
zero. I agree with you. I agree with you.
And like I stated earlier, I'd be more confident in saying yes if we know 13 months down the road this isn't working. Can we
exit out? Yeah.
Back out.
Yep.
Years.
Yeah.
2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be sitting here going.
Yeah. You just say you don't want to do third year. You know.
I don't think it would be a matter of looking at we messed up. I would say that we're gonna have to find something to replace it.
Yes.
That you know, I don't know if it would be something that we messed up on. We need something. I think we all agree that we need something. Yes.
Oh, we have to. I mean, it's
Yes.
ridiculous that we've been not using technology for the last 30
Mhm.
years.
Uh,
And it just happens because if you don't have that expert, like I say, if you don't know people that have come out of a university that has taught this stuff,
Mhm.
I mean, it's like a foreign language.
That's right. And Abdo has been helping us, teaching us, showing us that it success if we would do something.
Yeah, yeah, we,
They've helped you
well, there,
with your thinking.
yeah, it- some of what they've had to work on has kind of surprised me, just how much effort, um, but also how hard some of the work has been done because of the way we do it,
Mhm.
not because of the work itself.
Sure.
And um, Gary and Joan got the update here a couple weeks ago, or whenever it was, and I think they've now been here for about 4 months, and we're kind of getting to that point as okay, now we're into this. Um, we have to get to the next level. I have to get to the next level. I got to quit talking about what we need to do, and actually start doing it.
Yeah.
And recognizing, hey, I got the people right now to help. It's very hard to like give this to a staff person and just
No,
say,
yeah.
hey, roll this thing
Not
out.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
I agree with Mark. I think if you can get the answers that Mark is asking in short order,
Yeah.
then I think then I would move that we go ahead with this.
Yeah.
Then and do that. Let's make that step
Commit
forward.
to first year and then
Yeah,
two and three.
Yeah. I don't actually intend on signing anything until I've got the work plan
Right,
from Abdo,
right.
because
Okay.
to me, that's how you get this thing done. And, I kind of said, in a way, I feel like maybe I'm rushing a little bit, but we don't meet it for another 2 weeks.
Mhm.
In 2 weeks, normally we'd be 2 months from the opening of the budget. So not only do we got to get it in, but then we have to get it linked up with the people that can do it. Then I got to sit down and have the department heads look at it, whomever else, if some department heads have staff
Yeah.
doing their budgeting,
Mhm.
but then I've got to be able to see what am I putting on the table here? Because it's one thing to put things in the solid waste and highway, and it's another thing to add it all up and then know what that levy is going to look like.
Budgetarily, where's the money coming from?
I would not take this from anything budgeted, just kind of like what we're doing with Abdo itself, and take this from reserves, which is essentially still the ARPA transfer money that we did. If you remember that
Mhm.
resolution, um, I've got two. I had a conversation yesterday with the Mentor Fire Department. If you remember, been around, they did a generator purchase. Apparently, it was a bit of a nightmare in carrying it out, getting the electric set up. It got fried. They had to do it again. The electrician took responsibility. In the end, it appears that they may be a few $1,000s less than what we gave them, which means they would return some money back. It was only $28,000 to begin with. But I talked to the fire chief, and I said, just get me the full accounting, and then tell me here it is. So I've got it recorded, and if it's less than 28, I'll write a letter and say here's what you should repay the county, and if it's over 28, well then those are your costs. But we've also got that, and then we've got some funds that would be coming from the Crooks and Rotary Club / University of Minnesota Crookston, but that won't be until June.
So how do we proceed? I think your comment was you'd move for a 1-year contract
Mhm.
on this
Based on the answer.
to finding out the backdoor cancellation, or do you want to just bring it back in 2 weeks with the indication, the board approval of yes, it's a good idea with,
Yeah, I will say the board is in favor of it. I don't actually have anything to sign, so we can wait 2 weeks, but it will help by saying we're going to do this and answer these questions for me, and let's structure up the agreement and
Okay.
go from there.
is that board
that's-
consensus
yeah.
to explore it further with concerns on the backside?
Yeah.
If it doesn't work,
Move to,
Yeah.
approve that.
Along those
Mhm.
lines. And I want that ABDO work plan.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the Abdo plan.
Mhm.
I don't want this plopped down on my desk. That's why I was kind of against it.
motion to move forward in
Move forward
conception.
with, right.
Mhm.
And certainly commit to the one year, and
Mhm.
we're not saying no to 2 and 3,
Mhm.
but
Second.
we need to get this thing going tomorrow, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I mean, I think Abdul has been here long enough that they kind of have an idea of what we need, where we would like to be, so I think that, that for them to recommend it, I think is definitely, a positive. I guess, my question, like, we've talked about all these other different parts of software, you know, is this going to be able to do everything that we want it to do? So we're still going to end up with other.
Where we might be going, what, and for those that weren't on the board when we went through the RFP and ended up with the Tyler Munis software. Tyler is a national company. Munis is a government accounting package. They also have HR payroll as part of that, but they got modules practically for everything that a city or a county would do. Utility billing. I think, isn't there a software that we already use from Tyler?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we use Document Pro and some of the recording stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what I saw as a big advantage, even before I knew who they were, was having an integrated software so that we're dealing with the vendor and their people rather than multiple softwares and trying to then take the responsibility ourselves for trying to make sure they all talk to each other. This is a little bit different because it's more that second approach, which makes me a little bit nervous. But we're already doing some of this because we have to move from how we're doing things now to what it is we want to do down the road. Swallowing the whole rabbit and push it through the snake may not be. It might be easier to do a mouse at a time.
I agree with you.
And I got Abdo helping right now.
Right now, yes.
Right now, yeah. So I mean, we're WEP for voucher stuff. Purchased this a year and a half ago or so, whenever it was, for highway to get out of the paper vouchering stuff. Small company that we already deal with them on some stuff in highway. They took it on. They figured a lot of it out. Now we're bridging that out to other departments. I don't think it's going to be a long-term solution for us. It's got all the little cumbersome things of a small company's software, but the mindset is, the data is starting to migrate into electronic rather than paper, which helps. We've got Kronos, which does a lot of our time things that employees sweep, but we're not using a lot of Kronos for what we could be doing. We're still doing some things the old way, so we're trying to upgrade that. And then I realized all the time card data that the employees do all is getting printed off, then hand entered into Paymate every 2 weeks for payroll. I will not belabor that, but I mean it's busy work, and it frankly it has a whole series of issues with it. Not to just mention the amount of work it puts on the poor person that we've got doing this. Trying to figure out how to link that payroll or that time card data with Paymate, which resides on an AS400, which we pay for. It's not Windows. It's not on a server. It's on its own thing. It's just not readily exchangeable. Now, I know we've been able to do something because we do some of it for tax purposes in January, W-2s and stuff like that. So I started looking at that. Well, then I was like, we ought to be just looking at the Kronos payroll portion. So expect to see that coming. In fact, at least I got something yesterday, and I've had other discussions with Abdo about that. We're going to get a more robust view of that, but there isn't any of these softwares that doesn't come with annual maintenance and certain costs. And it's all, it's not $2,500 software that you buy at Best Buy. It's business stuff.
Or the train air where you're having people come up here and you're paying their transportation, you're paying $180 an hour to teach our staff how to do it. That's
And these
costly.
all, who knows, maybe this Questia eventually will offer software that's all encompassing of what you want to do.
I would not expect that.
No.
This is going to sit on top of things, and it'll interact. And I would say that the one longer term concern I have is that we have too many vendors that need to talk to each other. However, they won't do some of the actual accounting stuff, but we do the budget every year. We sit here meeting after meeting going over every little thing. And there's a lot of stuff that I tell you I'm not really sure of, but I don't know. We know that the jail bonds are going to be paid in a couple of years, and that gives us some latitude, but it's kind of like, boy, that's you'd probably do more at your personal budget, I would think.
So we had a motion on the floor for conceptually approve the 1 year with the concerns. So you'll bring it back to do the additional 2-3 years after the questions.
I'm going to talk to them about how to deal with that. I mean, one argument we routinely make is that each board is different. Each budget year is different. So how do you structure that in a formal contract? And I'll see what they write.
Well, and hopefully, when we get this finance director here, that person's going to advise us on these different systems. So it's important. I mean, for the criteria is whoever we hire is not a beginner too, but really does understand this and what else we will need in the future.
Well, if they can have some overlap with that, really.
I'll call the question. All in favor of?
I just want to make sure that I have the motion in here correct, because of Gary's changes on it. You're going to approve authorizing the purchase of the budget software funded by reserve funds with the following provisions: a 1-year contract. If multiple years are included in the contract, an opt-out clause would need to be included. The administrator will further explore additional questions of the board and report back at the April 15th board meeting, and confirming a plan of action with Abdo on the implementation of the software.
Sounds good.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I had everything in there.
The first was
Gary, and
Gary.
seconded by Paul.
And you're okay, Paul? All right. All in favor of, as Sam indicated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you. The next item is authorization to approve payment to Tri-County Community Corrections for legal expenses related to the litigation on the roofing project. We've had some discussions about this, not only here, but I have with the Tri-County Board, that the $900,000 settlement has been received by Polk County. The actual, or the reality of the litigation showed that it would be much harder to account for the losses of Tri-County than the Polk County's actual construction costs, which we bonded for. And that rather than try to parse through that it just seemed to make sense to not only take the settlement, but then pick up the half of the legal costs that we've incurred to date, reimburse Tri-County for that. We're 88% of Tri-County, so this is hitting us one way or the other. But now that the money is in place, and we may have just received the last billing from Pemberton as of yesterday, we would pick that up. The sheet that I have here is the accounting of each billing that has come in. And some of these are high, not because of the Pemberton people, but because the way the litigation proceeded, we had to prepare for an actual jury trial and hire experts. And I believe, if I have my numbers right in my head, that is actually over half of the $202,000 that the Pemberton.
Sounds about right, because I know
Yeah, that
Warren and I had concern about how much that person was charging to be an expert.
Yeah. And well, I'm not going to revisit that. I mean, it had to be done. It was done. So both Tri-County and Polk County have paid this much, together this much. The board action I'm asking for would be to reimburse Tri-County for their half. And we would essentially, Polk County would be picking up any subsequent bills from Pemberton as they come in. I think there was one that came in yesterday for, I don't think it was $1,000, but I'd have to go look.
For how much?
I thought it was less than $1,000.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, I know she had to do some work following up with the attorney on getting that wire transferred to us.
The bills are the bills, but I'm very disappointed in the whole process. Just seems to me attorneys are an open checkbook when we get into this type of litigation, and I was hitting every time we had a conference on where are we standing. Every time we adjusted down our negotiation, I hit on the attorney's fees, and yeah, I'm disappointed in the
Her fees
overall.
didn't go down.
Yep.
I actually think she did an excellent job for us, but that's a matter of opinion.
And, well, I think there should have been at least a discussion of, we got X amount of dollars into it at this point, and yes, I agree with Chuck. I think she represented the county okay. I just would have appreciated more exposure on where we were sitting on the legal bills, because bottom line, the county is going to net out here what 700,000 plus or minus on a potential that about 50% of the overall project cost. So
I'll note that those funds will, talking with Abdo, we need to account for those funds in basically the bond fund, and use that towards the annual bond payments.
Yeah.
So we've got some flexibility there that could help. a little bit even on the levy.
It's a difficult system on the whole, society that, I mean, that they didn't feel they had any responsibility and they said, well, we'll maybe give you 200,000.
Mhm.
And
I don't know how many more meetings we could have had on it. I mean,
well,
I'm
yeah,
sitting
yeah,
in
exactly.
groups
But,
having meetings.
that's why you end up hiring an attorney to at least get a $700,000
Mhm. And
and
It's a sticky wicket.
it's been a nice project. I mean, it's day and night. I think from going in,
Mhm.
the updates
Yeah.
were positive.
Yeah. And you look at the total amount billed and just, even just saying that that roof expert was half of that. So then you're looking, at like approximately 100,000. But then, you're looking at the time that it's taken, the years. So
Almost 2 years.
yeah, I mean, the first invoice was June of 22.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it was very reasonably charged for all the legal fees compared to some other legal issues that, we've dealt with. So I think it was good.
I think the problem with the experts was if you didn't get them, you risked the other side getting them. So it was just like watching Perry Mason or something.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I think that's how that works.
Yep.
What was our bond? What was the bond amount that we sold there?
it was about $3 million, but it included other things other than
Yeah.
this. I think the remodel cost was about 1.4 to 1.5.
Yeah.
And there were things that needed to be done that probably couldn't have been attributable to the rain event.
If I remember right, yeah, there was about
Mm-hmm.
the heating, the air handling
Yes.
system and a few
Mhm.
other items to the tune of about 250, around $300,000.
So, I mean, in the end, you're getting about 50 cents on the dollar. It depends on how you want to look at it, whether that's good or bad. But
Yep.
So we will make a $700,000 payment against the bond?
well,
How does that work?
I think when we get to the budget, we'll figure out how much we want to do. It'll depend on
Mhm.
not only the bond payment. Um, Ideally, I suppose it would be proportionate to the bond payment, but it may also end up being a decision. Well, how much do you want to use to bring down the levy? Of course, you won't have it later because it's a multi-year
One time.
bond,
Yeah.
but
I think the big puzzle in that Warren's question is interest rates. What at the
Mhm.
time we issued the bond versus today's, and it might be,
it was pretty good at the time.
yeah.
You
So
know.
that's going to be the big thing to look at.
But I will kind of related to that, and Annette from Abdo yesterday wanted permission to talk to an investment firm, how to manage money, maximize return. So, um, part of our obligation is to try to get as much as we can with the dollars that are residing under our oversight. And, basically for a county, it would be interest. There's really no other types of things, but some of that then becomes the timing of those shorter term interest bearing investments. So we may hear about that too, which is overdue.
Okay, we got request. We need a motion on this.
That's
Mhm.
what I'm asking for.
I'd make it.
Warren motions, second.
Second.
Gary seconds. Any other questions, comments? All in favor of the county paying the Tri-County's legal expense, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We agree.
We're kind of paying ourselves.
Plus, you're
Exactly.
You're paying their share, which has been 50%. You've been splitting the bills all along. That's what we just started doing. They were actually, Paul over there is actually doing the accounting on it, then sending us the bills. So,
Okay.
last item is just my out-of-state travel request to go to the ICMA conference. It's in Florida in December or in October. I'm doing this now because it opens up in a few weeks, and then there's all this chaos trying to get a room. I'm not 100% sure I'm going, but I need your permission anyway if I'm going to go. It's part of my contract. Last year, you were gracious enough to let me go to the Gettysburg thing, which was really the best thing I've ever attended.
Isn't that fun?
Well, I was so impressed by it. I wish I could go every year, but I don't think that's reasonable. But
I just have one unrelated question. Would you miss a home Viking game?
well, that's always in the equation.
I know.
I have, but it's just I have to take it into account. But I don't know when they're playing.
From personal experience, it's okay to miss a Vikings game.
Well, it could be watched on TV, but
It does factor into
it's a factor.
calculus, yeah. That's not a request for tickets, is it, Gary? I mean, I just want to make sure.
But yeah, let me know if you need to sell 2 tickets.
I wasn't going that far. I was looking for him to give them to me.
Well,
So it
I
might
mean, I
depend
know
on
where
how you
his
vote
seats
here.
are,
No,
so
I'd reimburse you a fair price.
So
If you want to be charity and pass it out,
I ain't going
or
no
well, I
Vikings
mean,
game.
Mark can pay.
Raffle.
Mark can pay for us.
Send Gary.
Trust me, I have a list.
I didn't
So
want that to interfere with my vote today.
obviously, the conflict of interest would
No.
is nothing we
No,
want to
there's
acknowledge.
no.
I don't want to go to a Vikings game. Sorry.
No, I think it's important to go to conferences and
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's
motion,
are you motioning?
sure I will.
Joan motions. Second,
Sure, I'll second.
all seconds. All in favor of the travel expense for Mr. Whiting, if he so deems to go, say aye.
I will
Aye.
let you know.
Opposed? Good to
That is
go.
all I have.
That's enough.
Yeah, we've spent enough.